Hello again, Mountain Lions, and welcome back to the Red Mountain Radio. As per usual, I'm your host, Brooklyn Anaya, and today we've got the last winter sport of the season for you. In this final episode, we check out the RMHS Boys Soccer Team. For those of you who haven't listened in before, in the Winter Sports Insider, we'll discuss everything surrounding high school sports by getting first-hand personal accounts from the athletes themselves. If you're curious for more, check out our last episode, which features Peter DeMuzio and Drew Hall from the boys basketball team. Our athlete interview for this episode is with boys soccer. Visiting the podcast today are varsity athletes Erick Garcia and Nick Applebury. Let's take a listen to that conversation. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Erick Garcia.
Hi, everyone.
And Nick Applebury.
Hey, guys.
From the RMHS Boys Soccer Team. So thank you guys for being here today. We are really excited to have boys soccer on the podcast. You guys are actually the last group of athletes we're having for the Winter Sports Insider. So, best for last. And soccer is such a cool sport. You have the World Cup. You have all these amazing soccer players like Messi and Ronaldo that everybody hears about. What is soccer all about here at Red Mountain?
Yeah, so soccer is essentially a really big team sport. And we take a lot of pride and, a lot of our teamwork and our chemistry comes from team bonding and getting to know each other really well, and that really translates onto the field because it helps us perform better on the field as well as getting results as a team.
Yeah, and I'd also say that we do a lot of off-season training too. So when we go and do that, it helps us as a team become stronger. And when we go back into the regular season, we're definitely going to be a lot better and then be able to beat a lot of other schools because they don't tend to get their off-season training as much. So that definitely helps us with being able to become like-minded and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Would you say that teamwork and really getting to know your teammates is a super important part of playing soccer?
Yeah, and I'd say it's something very important in general. It comes to classes and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So off-season training, you mentioned, Nick, it's really vigorous, and you guys, having that off-season training helps you in the season to come. And I'm wondering, what does the off-season training kind of look like?
So there's options. There's a club team that the coaches started where pretty nice and cheap. It's a basic club. The school together comes and plays, and we have that whole off season until we start back up again in high school. There is some other players that will go play in higher league clubs, and they play together as well up there. We also every now and then during our soccer class that we have in the mornings, we'll play soccer here and there on that too.
Yeah, I would say it's really important to be together, especially in the off season, because if you look at teams like Perry, who have been really successful in the past few years, they won back-to-back rings. I think a lot of them play soccer together outside of high school season, which is part of their success.
Nick, you mentioned that the coaches started a club outside of school, and that, the coaches want to make sure that everybody stays together and plays together to get more of that team camaraderie and that chemistry within the team to carry over into high school season. So what do the coaches kind of do that you like or you've noticed that kind of help to uplift the team and bring them together and closer?
I think that our coaches keep a good motivation, and they're also proudly minded with their players that they have in their possession. They like to see us come together and be able to keep on building, because here at Red Mountain, we are working on staying there that whole 4 years and giving your all the way to the extent. So the coaches are so glad to see us improve more and more and us jump ranks so well in both club and in high school.
Yeah, I think the coaches play a really big role in the development of our team and individual development as well, because a lot of the freshmen obviously will start on either JVB or JV, and as they go through high school and they play soccer all 4 years, they will slowly develop their skills and obviously work their way up to varsity. But the coaches are really knowledgeable on the game of soccer, and they're not just like a regular social studies teacher or something. They know the game well, and I feel like they bring their knowledge to the field. Another thing is 2 of our coaches are actually Red Mountain alumni.
Oh.
So they have a lot of connection and a lot of pride into what they do here at Red Mountain.
So it kind of gives it a little bit more history.
Yeah. Also, I think almost every single one of our coaches still play soccer to this day. So they play for a older man's league or whatever. And so they're always active and not coaches that, like how Eric said, where they just sit as a teacher and doing that during off season. They're very well involved and will sometimes get practice done with us too.
Yeah, and not only are they practicing for themselves, but they're also practicing to learn more about how they can teach you guys how to play better soccer. That's nice. And Eric, you were mentioning that the goal of the Red Mountain soccer program, at least for the boys' side, is to kind of carry and cultivate that team throughout all 4 years of high school. And I'm wondering, is the varsity team for Red Mountain Boys Soccer, is it relatively younger, or do you have more seniors and juniors on the team? And how does that kind of impact the collaboration of the players?
A lot of the players on varsity are about 75% upperclassmen, but a lot of the younger boys on the team, they will usually like get their opportunity on varsity. Sometimes we have freshmen playing on varsity, a couple sophomores as well. I think it really ranges in between. It's obviously all dependent on skill level. A lot of it reflects your skill levels. As far as team chemistry, I mean, I think we get along pretty well, especially the younger and the older guys. But I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping the team together.
Despite that age gap.
Yeah.
I'd also say that the team is very welcoming when it comes to being a new player. No matter the person, we're all built to have respect and manners. Our coaches make sure of that too, even if you're not raised that way. I'd say for me, when I came in as a freshman, I was very welcomed into the system, and I already knew a lot of them because we've all gone through that same route of schools kind of. So I think that also has helped throughout time. We've been able to create that connection in our team.
So the age disconnect is kind of obsolete when it comes to soccer because everybody just kind of gets along.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, moving on, this winter was a little bit warmer than the last ones that we've had. And, you know, soccer is an outside sport, so I'm wondering, how did the weather kind of impact your practices or your games? Or maybe there are some moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so cold, or, you know, when you wish it would be warmer. Has there ever been any time that weather has impacted your game?
I would say that when it gets windy is a big one that affects our gameplay, because if you kick the ball, once it goes in the air, it's changing big time. Rather than that, I'd say we're always ready for different types of weather because during off season we're dealing with that heat, and then even at the end and the beginning of our off season, we are dealing with some cold temperatures. Like right now, we're in off season and it's gotten down to the 50s. So I think that we're typically prepared when it comes to temperature, but wind and sometimes if it's a little too sunny, because we have to choose which side we want to start on and which side we're going to end on. So you have to think about, okay, it's going to be super sunny on this side. We want to start more facing away from that. So I think that's another big factor that affects our gameplay.
Yeah, as far as the sun, I think it's really just if you want to have the sun in your eyes for the whole half, because obviously at halftime we switch sides. And I think that's really affects the keeper the most because he's the one that has to save all the shots and stuff. So you really don't want him looking into the sun. The cold is really not that big of a deal when you're on the field because you're like running around, your muscles are warm, and you know the blood is pumping. I think the cold really doesn't have that big of an impact. But obviously if you're on the bench or watching the game, it's obviously hard to just sit there in the cold. It does take a little longer to get warm. You know, sometimes you have to put in a couple extra laps into your warm-up. But overall, I think it's just the same as usual, honestly.
Yeah, but you also have to know how to warm up properly, get every single muscle that you're going to use in that game properly going. Luckily, we have trainers that are always out on the field to help. But as a player, you need to know, okay, I need to do this same warm-up again because I've been sitting on the bench for 20 minutes or so. If you don't decide to stretch or do your little lap like Eric had said, then you could result to like injuries in your legs and stuff like that. So that's where cold can affect, but typically we're prepared and have the knowledge to be able to adapt to that.
Yeah, so it's really about how you step up to the challenge and how you kind of react to your environment. And, you make strategic choices to make sure that you're not impacted by the changing environment, which is kind of amazing, kind of what all sports is about, reacting to the environment. Now, circling back to you guys as individuals, one thing I really like to hear from all athletes is any lucky charms you guys might have before a game, before a really stressful competition. Girls soccer, actually, we were talking to them. They have a different way they pull on their cleats or step onto the field, or maybe just a mantra they tell themselves when they step on the field. And so I'm wondering, does that also relate to boys soccer? Do you guys have any lucky charms that you guys do to kind of, give yourself some luck on the field?
Before every game, we usually pray, being thankful overall for everything that you have. But as far as the game, it's really just, are you warming up seriously, and are you getting yourself ready to play? A lot of the time, if you're like messing around in warm-ups, or if you're not taking it seriously, it comes back to bite you on the field, because your team will start off slow and you won't find the success that you want to have.
Yeah, I'd say, for bringing back how you said lucky charms, for me, whenever I am doing, like, when I have a game and it's something really important, I'd count every single game equal, no matter the skill level of the person we're going against. But typically during our warm-up, I have both shoes tied, but my right cleat always unties during warm-up, and then it's always the one that stays untied the whole entire game. I typically have best performance, in my opinion, by me having one cleat untied, so I'd say that's my lucky charm of it.
Awesome. And one inspiring thing that I always love to hear from athletes from any sport, it can be from gymnastics to underwater toe wrestling, but how you guys got into this sport. So a lot of people, they do it because their parents told them to, or because they had an older brother or sister that was in the same sport, so it's easier for your parents to kind of ship you back from sports. But there's always that one story that is really heartfelt and moving, and I'm wondering what kind of got you guys into this wonderful, amazing sport of soccer.
I'm actually the oldest, so I kind of started the trend for my siblings, I guess. But my dad did play high school soccer. He went to Mesa High. So I think I've just always loved soccer. I've been playing on a team since I was 3. So I think just taking the time and finding something that you really like to do, it's really important, especially at a young age, because that obviously translates to when you're older. You can have a lot more opportunities in the sport that you love.
So I started around when I was like 6 or 7. I never knew that my mom or my stepdad had played soccer before, but I always had that feeling that like I would enjoy soccer, and I had started on a club like in my first season, which is not usual at all, but they wanted me to just get straight into it and just slowly adapt into it as it goes. So I tried it for first season and I loved it, just didn't have a good coach. So then my mom started coaching for me, and that went on for about 4 years, and that's what really drew the motivation for me to keep on playing as I went. And to this day, I still love soccer. I still play as if little me was playing the game, instead of just all about competition. It's more than that. It's actually fun.
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than winning this game or winning that game. It's about, making those memories and leaving that legacy, and maybe your kids will play soccer one day. Your stepdad plays soccer, your mom played soccer, and now you guys do. Kind of awesome, like, where that's going to take you, especially with all the opportunities that you can have with soccer. And speaking of opportunities, going a little bit off track here, do you guys plan to kind of use soccer to take you through college, or maybe get some scholarships from soccer? What's your kind of plan with that?
So the sad thing is soccer's not the biggest sport in America. So when it comes to scholarships, it's very rare. That's why our coaches are so strong on our grades. Like, a lot of sports would say that, as long as you have a D or better, then you're fine. But in varsity, you can't have a D. You have to have a C or better. And they strive for us to be the best we can to every single extent. And so for us, it's always, you got to focus on those grades. If you want a scholarship, it's the grades. Or you go play another sport off season as well, like track or something like that. But I'd say that when it comes to soccer in college, I'll probably be going to college and then just hop onto the team throughout time, because it's like 1 in a million to try to get a scholarship for that.
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot. I mean, if you get a scholarship for soccer, you have to be like really, really good. So a lot of soccer players, what they end up doing is focusing on their grades and just getting a scholarship through your grades rather than getting a scholarship through soccer, which works out because then you go to a school that you're interested in attending with a major that you are really interested in, and you'll get a good education while also you can play soccer on your free time going to college. So I do plan on going to college and playing soccer. As far as like what college and what like division of college, I'm not really sure, but I think it'll work out.
Yeah, it's always about trying to go as far as you can with it, because you shouldn't give up on a sport you love so much.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, Nick, it's all about the grades. And being a student athlete is really hard. You have to go to practice, and then you have to go to extra practice, and then you have to come home and do all your homework. So I'm wondering, how do you guys kind of balance that homework practice life on the off season and during the season?
I'd say during our season, our coaches, during practices, if you're failing a class or if you need that additional help on something, the coaches are always flexible about, oh, hey, coach, I need to go get this tutoring done. Okay, go ahead. Or if someone on the team, like we have a couple kids that are freshmen that are super smart in calculus classes, they could be there to help and be able to help you out with any assignments as needed. And that's part of us having a full team chemistry as well.
I think a lot of the time you end up trying to do your homework in your spare time. Like, let's say you have 15 extra minutes in your math class and you want to get your some homework done. I think it's just using your time wisely and managing your time, because you don't want to go to bed too late, especially if you have like a game the next day, or always practicing and stuff like right after school. Your body gets tired after a while, and if you do your homework right away, you get to rest more later. So I think that's been a motivation for me throughout the season. And in the off season, obviously with club, it's a little different. Practices are a little later, so I try to do my homework right after school and then go to club practice. So then after practice, I just get home and get ready for bed.
Yeah. And, that is really what the work that you need to put in to be that student athlete, that ideal scholar and athlete, and really have that combination of both without getting too stressed out. And, it's great that you guys can do that and that you guys have that resolve. And last thing that is the most fun thing to ask everybody, is there any stories from this season, past seasons, or just soccer in general that you guys have that you want to share with the world about the Red Mountain Boys Soccer Team?
Well, I'd say something cool that we did this season that we haven't really ever done in a while against a school is that we beat Marana 11-0.
Oh my goodness.
And they had, I think like 20 minutes left in the game, and they had mercy rule, so they were not able to continue playing. I think that was one of the best stories that we have of the season.
Yeah, I would say that's probably been one of our best games, but, obviously when you beat rivalry schools such as like Mountain View and Mesa, I think that always feels good, especially after like preparing for those games at practice, and you always talk about those games, especially if you know people that go to those schools, you can always like talk trash or whatever. So I think it's always fun.
I think also we beat all of our region. I think almost every single one of our region schools this year. I think we only lost to like 3 that were the like they're called like freedom kind of. So you play against some other schools that are in different cities and not as close, but it was fun that we were able to have such a good record and be able to knock out all those regional schools and be able to, like how Eric said, be able to like kind of talk a little smack if you want here and there.
Have something to show for all those practices that you went to.
Yeah, it's like a flex.
Yeah, flexing on the losers.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we have to wrap it up, guys, there's a little tradition on this podcast, and it involves trivia questions. Are you guys up for some trivia?
I mean, yeah,
Sure.
We'll try.
Yes or yes. Awesome. Okay. I will read the rules. You will have 10 seconds to answer a question after I ask it. If you answer correctly, there will be 3 points awarded to the boys soccer team, and if not, no points. There will be 3 regular questions worth 3 points and a bonus question worth 5 points. And at the end of this season, the sport that has the most points in winter sports trivia will win a winter sports trivia bragging rights trophy. Currently, esports has a perfect score of 14 points. Do you guys think you can do it and beat esports?
I mean, we could definitely try. A perfect score of 14 is kind of crazy.
Nobody else has been able to tie them, so.
Jeez.
All right.
Let's go, I guess.
Which man, who played for Brazil, is known as the king of football?
Brazil. Pelé.
That's correct. 3 points. What is the name of the award given to the top scorer in a World Cup tournament?
It's the Golden Boot. The Golden Boot.
That's correct. So you guys have 6 points right now. 1 more regular question. Next question. Who holds the record for the most international goals in soccer history?
Soccer history. Like across all of history?
All of history.
Diego Maradona.
Do you agree?
Yeah, let's go with that.
The answer is Cristiano Ronaldo.
There's no way.
All right, and this is the bonus question worth 5 points. This one is a little bit non-traditional, and because it is a higher number, there will be a 3-number point parachute, so any number within those 3 points is also counted correct. So this is the question. What is the record for how many red cards were given in a single soccer game?
Well, you can't have more than...
You can't have more than 11.
No, well, you have to have 7 players on the field, so I would say
But
8.
Remember the coaches, too.
The coaches.
Oh, coaches can get red cards too. And you can have maximum 11, so...
I say 13. I don't know.
Nah, let's do 12.
12?
12.
The answer is 36.
36. Oh, because, I mean, technically you could have...
People running off the
you
bench.
could have the
Or
bench
you-
and everything too.
Everybody getting in a roll.
I didn't even think about who's playing and the bench and then all the coaches.
36.
36 is crazy.
Crazy. Well, you
Never
guys
thought
clocked
that.
out with 6 points. So congratulations. It's okay. And unfortunately, you did not beat esports. But you guys still got some points on the board. So that's exciting. And thank you guys for being here today. It was really, really fun to get to talk to you guys. And you guys had so many good things to say about the boys soccer program. So next season, I hope you guys absolutely destroy all the other teams and mercy rule everybody, even though that's probably unattainable, but you guys are going to do it anyway. It's going to be amazing. So thank you guys for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having us. This was good.
Thank you for having us. Hopefully we'll have a state championship next year.
Yeah, always shooting for the best we can get, so yeah.
Everyone, that was Erick Garcia and Nick Applebury from Boys Soccer. Sadly, boys soccer season is over, but make sure to check them out the next winter sports season. Well, listeners, that's it for this week's episode. We heard some great stories and got great insight on boys soccer with athletes Erick Garcia and Nick Applebury. Coming up, next time on the Sports Insider, the first episode of the Spring Sports Insider. Keep in the know with the Red Mountain Radio, bringing you insiders from baseball, softball, track and field, girls and boys tennis, and boys volleyball. Thanks again for tuning in to episode 13, season 4 of the Winter Sports Insider, featuring Erick Garcia and Nick Applebury. Thanks to them for joining me today. You can follow us on Instagram at Red Mountain Radio, spelled REDMTNRADIO, to receive updates on episode drops and fun behind-the-scenes insights. I'm your host, Brooklyn Anaya, and thanks again for joining me on this Sports Insider episode. Today's episode was written by Brooklyn Anaya. Our directors are Brooklyn Anaya and Connor Sampson. Our producers are Mr. Kelly from RMTV, Brooklyn Anaya, and Connor Sampson. Our sound engineer is Connor Sampson, and thank you to Connor Sampson for mixing and editing the sound. Thanks to our special guests for this episode, Erick Garcia and Nick Applebury. And last but certainly not the least, thanks to you, listener, for tuning in today. Your support is what keeps us making episodes. This was Season 4, Episode 13 of the Sports Insider on Boys Soccer by the Red Mountain Radio. And enjoy spring break, everybody.